kind of thing where I'm breaking down that's what it is. This is an after show kind of thing where I'm kind of talking with you guys here, asking some questions, seeing what you feel about everything. Kind of like I wanted to do something that was, because I know that sometimes people do like a after session kind of thing, and we really didn't do that ever. You know, we didn't chat a lot about the sessions, so I felt like a after the entire campaign kind of thing might be okay. So I'll kind of like, you know, ask some questions.
We kind of chatted about the last session before the next session.
Yeah, we didn't really get a lot of that in though, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna kind of go through some questions, kind of ask you guys, kind of see how you all feel about things, and we'll kind of see how this goes here. I don't know. I'm distracted by Evil Cat. What did you all think of how Fall of Avanswell went overall? That's kind of the first question I want to kind of pose to all of you.
I think it was good.
Okay.
Overall.
Yeah, I think it was a good ending for everything that happened. Granted, I was joining kind of on like the back half of the adventure.
You not really.
No,
it was,
I would say about a quarter of the way.
Quarter to a third.
Really only quarter of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when did Eskret leave? What level was that?
I can check. I am in the game.
Yeah, because
he
literally
11, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay, level 3. Oh, yeah. I see.
Yeah.
And we started at level. Did we start at level 1?
You started at 1.
We did start at level 1.
Probably level 1. Yeah. Well, I think I went back and watched the old episodes. I think it was level 1. Yeah.
I think the thing is that front bit of sessions were pretty heavily loaded. Was the thing. So I could say like probably we were like a third into whatever it was, because it was taking some time to kind of get the feel for everything, at least early on, trying to get that.
The first little bit was this was our first time using Foundry.
True. Yeah, that's
so getting the hang of that, and then 2, it's been a while for most of us, and some of us haven't. I don't know if some of us haven't played 2E, but it's been a while since for me, since I even experienced 2E, and I only played like one game in 2E before.
Yeah, Tantus had a definite learning curve when it came to the difficulties he was setting and the encounter difficulty.
Yeah, Pathfinder math is very tight. I've been playing for the past few years now. I run 2 games currently, and I played in 1, except for beyond Fall of Avanswell. I'll tell you,
I played a lot of 1E.
There's a reason the budget exists.
I think it's one of those things is kind of taking a look at it and learning more about how they wanted to do things in 2E. Wasn't too difficult, but it was like one of those things is I certainly speaking had, I think, 1E on the brain, because I thought about it too. And while like I could certainly say 3.5 D&D, 4th edition and 5th edition are all very different. Like me going from 1 to each of those, I could probably get a feeling just naturally how things were between them, because there were certain base levels which were very similar. I think it's kind of where like Pathfinder 2E, that base level accelerates much quicker in a lot of ways, because it starts out at like, rather than like a 10, it really starts out at that 15 level, you know, and that's already something a little different when you're trying to think of all those numbers. And I think that was kind of getting me in my brain of like, we are different enough, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You were setting DCs at like 20, which is because the problem was he was you were using the quick ones, which I don't know why they even put the quick DCs in there, because they are so inaccurate. You literally can't use them.
Yeah, typically if you're doing something fast, you can just pull up the DC by level chart, and that's usually a better baseline.
Well, yeah, but they have one DC. They have a DC by proficiency, trained, expert, whatever.
Oh, I see.
And it's like 20, 25, 30, 40.
The chart was easier to find in the Archives of Nethys than the other, I will tell you. The first one came up right away.
Yeah, no, that is very fair.
But
Yeah.
you need to basically be like level 3 before you're even gonna be able to like hit those 20s, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. That's yeah. There's a lot of stuff in the archives that I think should be maybe touched up a bit. I've noticed some things that
I think they
feel
just
a
need
bit
to
out of
make-
place.
I think they just need to make a quick reference area for like the stuff that's like important.
The weird thing is they do have a quick reference. The problem is that even the quick reference is so like big and in depth. Like it needs to be trimmed.
It's one of those things that I kind of look at it, and it's Archives of Nethys is better in some ways, but I always will remember, and I will always reference from Pathfinder 1E, the PSFR D20. That was always kind of like the end-all be-all, and if they hadn't screwed stuff up by being jerks, you know, it would have been a lot easier to use that one there, where it was like, oh, you
Wait,
did.
how are they jerks? What happened there?
They try to do some extra monetization on top of everything that was beyond just like having ads.
Yeah, it's a whole like.
Yeah, if they'd stuck to ads on the site, Paizo wouldn't care. But they tried to like monetize things in another way that technically went against what Paizo would have liked. So Paizo was like, you technically can't have anything that's not just generic. So they had to like, a lot of stuff went to this weird genericness on there that, you know, if you're using it and then trying to use like one of the books or something, it's kind of hard to do them together. Not impossible, but it does kind of make like a weird problem in some ways.
Yeah, basically they tried to probably gate stuff behind, basically requiring you to pay for stuff Paizo technically owned, which would be a big no-no legally, and just for convenience, basically, even though Paizo ordered, because they're basically, I could see an issue there.
Yeah.
I never really liked using them though. I always preferred Nethys for whatever reason.
Nethys, I
Even
felt
back in the day.
better in Well, I think the thing is, back in the day, Nethys for first edition was very slow in comparison. I think that was the big thing that I always got when we talk about it. But again, Nethys, definitely, I did like it for other things. So it sounds like everybody had a good time with the game overall. Is there a particular like arc or adventure that any of you? What's your favorite arc or event or part of the adventure that you had?
Overall, I'm kind of split between the very beginning and the Cloud City, the Sky City.
Okay.
Arcs.
Yeah, I think it really started to peak during the Cloud City section. But like one of my favorite standout moments was the jailbreak with Calder and Umbrin. I think that was one of my favorite parts, personally.
It's one of those things is like, I knew it was gonna like do a lot of weird stuff to the storyline, but I did love that you did that. It was the kind of thing that was where it was like, well, this'll just do stuff to the storyline, but hey, it's fun, you know. How about you, Joe?
Yeah.
What did you?
I found out on Sunday that he kind of expected us to go not go to the Sky City and go with the people.
I will tell you, the Sky City was something I had in my lore Bible. It wasn't something I had made plans for you to go to at all, kind of thing like that. I hadn't really explored that other than it existed in my notes, kind of thing, you know?
That's fair.
It was an interesting thing to experiment and kind of figure out what was there in a way, but you know, it did leave a different direction. But anyway, Joe, how about you? What was your favorite arc?
I mean, I did like. I will say one of my other favorites, other than the ones that have been mentioned. I actually really enjoyed the kind of dungeon we ended up doing, and then the big fight against the horde in the first city.
Oh, okay.
Rude. That was all. I went back and like looked at that. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
I can see some interesting stuff with those there too. I think those were kind of like standout moments, definitely. But I kind of want to say, like, you know, it was an interesting thing is I kind of had general beats for the story, but I definitely, everything kind of went in a little bit of a different direction in a lot of ways. But there definitely was, I think I was talking with Wyrm about this. There were some points of time where the transitions didn't work as well as I'd like, and I understand that too. And I think those were sometimes a little harder in some of the areas too, with story transitions and stuff too.
Actually, what's really funny is I was thinking about it, and part of me feels like you might have learned some bad lessons from running modules for a bit, because they have really bad transitions.
Yeah, that's very true. I also struggle with that in some of my games as well.
Yeah, it's like you get used to the terrible transitions, so you're not ready to make better ones.
Yeah.
Ugh. How did you like the world? I think that's a good question. Did you like getting a feel for it? Were there questions that you had about the overall setting? You know, because granted, this was like I'm not gonna lie, it was really a half setting that I was writing a bunch of, kind of designing a bunch of as we went.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. The thing that was, I'll let you go first.
No, you can go.
Okay, I was gonna say the thing that was most annoying to me is every time I tried to find out more about the world, it was always through people who tried harder to be cryptic than to be informative.
I'm gonna back up Santis on this one. I do the same thing in my game. It's really hard not to, I'll be honest, because you don't want to reveal too much to your players, too much meta knowledge.
Yep, I get it. Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's also that for a lot of that is my entire thought pattern is there were places that you could find stuff about the world, but there was also a lot of like stuff that was honestly lost, you know, and the way the places you were in the storyline.
Yeah,
it was very like post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I solved that a slightly different ways, so maybe that's where I solve it by lying to my players, because if the people
That's fair.
No, like, well, I say that, but it's like people don't know necessarily how the cosmos works. They have theories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so that's more what I mean by, like, I know what the actual cosmos is, but if someone says, oh yes, the star people came and abducted everyone and turned them all into humans or whatever, abducted animals and turned them into humans, that could just be some ridiculous theory that this guy has, you know? So, anyway.
I think the biggest thing it took me a while to get to was the kind of the naming conventions of things. Otherwise, I thought like the lore was pretty good.
I'm not gonna lie.
I mean,
one of the reasons I do like the sequel to this entire setting, because it's like I established dumb naming conventions long ago, and I've kind of had to stick with it.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I've been making fun of him and his naming conventions the entire time.
It's fine.
Like
I know the naming convention is dumb for this area. I'm like, yeah, you know, it's what I established when I first wrote this. I guess I'm sticking with that now. I try to fix it in certain places, you know, with other characters' names and stuff like that. But yeah, the basic, like, you know, Avanswell, Eaglewin, which is just Eagle Wing. That
that's what that's supposed to be. I didn't realize. I could not figure out what that one was.
Yeah, it's
like I have. It just took me a while to get used to that. Otherwise, like when I was reading kind of like the general overview of the world, I very much did enjoy it.
It was.
I mean, literally, your naming.
Oh, go ahead.
I was about to say, yeah, your naming convention literally is, I'm gonna mumble this word.
Look,
no, it's just Tance's spellings of words.
No. That it's supposed to reflect that the humans of this universe were dumb. That was their naming convention. They just mumbled words to name things. That's what did you say? No, never mind. That's his name now.
It's like, I can't, what are you saying, blood? I mean, that's completely valid.
But Joe, you were saying.
I mean, for me, it was interesting because I played the other adventure several times.
Yes.
And to see the backstory of what happened and how they ended up there was interesting.
Well, it was another one of those things. Is I was talking to Wyrm about this, and my original plan was that you, when I was originally kind of doing the adventure, I was going to have you get to basically that thing I talked about, the Battle of the Bridge. That would have been a finale. So it would have been right before people would have traveled. Because the thing is, I hadn't planned for anybody to know why you traveled. You conveniently made a story point and made it that I could make a really cool way of telling why people traveled.
That's fair.
Yeah. Which I'm like, I thought that was more interesting because you told a very good story with it too. You know, it was sort of like, it was kind of a little bit more mysterious otherwise, but I'm like, no, this is very interesting. We're kind of exploring it. We're going to that. You basically took the last part, like went left instead of like right or forward, which you would normally gone. Turn left.
I mean, ultimately, we still don't really know how it all worked because it was some weird divine. We did the ritual, but everything kind of just happened behind the scenes in a weird way. Like, we're like, okay, we succeeded. Did we succeed? I don't know. Things are happening and we're not sure. So it's like we knew kind of what we were doing, but as far as how it played out, we're just as much in the dark. But I think that's a good thing. I think it's like the magic itself, doesn't make any sense, which I think is totally fine.
Yeah. It's the result is the same, which, you know, the intro to the previous the adventure that's a sequel to this, or the world is the castle gets swallowed up and deposited on another plane. That's the start of that story there, and that's what happened. Granted, you guys, because you were in your weird position, ended up somewhere else, and who knows, maybe the Dread Army ended up somewhere else too. Technically, I would say actually they did. So it's all three of you ended up in different places, but there are different stories to tell with that. But like that was my original point for the original adventure. But now, if I ever tell stories again, I'd probably like break up that story rather than one epic campaign, doing like smaller stories that, you know, tell parts of that world, because I think that's a little bit more interesting and a little easier to take care of with rather than have one team of people do goddamn everything, because that's just insane. We're not a video game. That's the old like video
also,
game mentality.
I am glad you learned your lesson about having us be able to learn a language.
It was one of those things too.
Because we learned the Sky People's language.
Yes, but it was also a thing of like I was trying to go bit wide with like rules, but also like it made sense to try to like learn it too. It was one of those things is you want to be able to do things. It's just sometimes it's difficult.
Yeah,
I mean, I kind of feel like like learning one or the other. We had been working around it for like literally 2 weeks, you know, like at that point when we got the level, and it's like it makes sense that we were able to learn it.
No, it just in the other campaign, the enemies spoke a completely unknown language, and we had no way to actually communicate with them.
I think we had magic, but the problem, well, there was other weird.
None of us had those spells.
That one was a lot more of like you never got any writing from them. You only heard them like maybe like yelling curses or like get them at you kind of levels of things. So it's like I felt like in that one you just didn't have a chance to necessarily learn it. This is like I've got books and writing and people that can translate for you. It's a lot easier to say it then, definitely. But I can understand that you want to be able to kind of go things like options for having magic to translate would have been good too. So that's again lessons you learn along the way. There was a lot of lessons from that campaign anyway. How did you think about the?
Like,
what do you have something to say?
I was about to say, I know one of them was don't surprise your players, because you've done that several times and it never ends well.
It's the thing is, I think what I kind of go for is I don't think it's necessarily bad to surprise your players, but you have to prepare them the kind of surprise it's going to be. You know, like
you have to prepare them for the type of campaign you're going to run, and telling them it's going to be one thing, then pulling a switcheroo only leaves players frustrated.
Yeah.
Fair.
It's one of those things that like I wasn't going to do any of that to this campaign, honestly, at all.
I know.
But, like, I'm thinking about some of the other campaigns I've run, and I'm like, there are some that, like, that I've done a little bit of that kind of stuff, but I think 2, actually. And Madness, the original one, that was the one that I didn't do a good job of expressing the kind of campaign that was going to be. While, like, I'm not going to lie, like, the other one, like, Records of Evil, I think, like, I expressed it half decent on that one, at least. You're still...
That one is at least you tried to prepare us as players for what was going to happen without telling us what was going to happen or what kind of game it was going to be, because it was very much like I was still a little annoyed, but at the same time, like Yeah, I was just yeah. Anyway,
I went out of my way to try to make it better, but again, like that was a hard one to like not spoil
Yeah.
a lot of stuff with, you know. But that again, that's a hard campaign to work on. This I feel like I don't think I had any crazy twists that were planned. Anything that happened that was a kind of crazy twist that happened was honestly because you guys were like, we're gonna do that, and I'm like, sure, we're doing that now.
Yeah. It's not about crazy twists as much as it is shifting genres.
That's true.
That's because you know, like, you know, I remember Tiv complaining about this when he did Madness with you the first time, where he was like, you told us that it was going to be you told him that it was going to be like a campaign where you're like in a city surrounded by enemies and it's going to be like a war thing. And so he built one character and it turned out to be this exploration thing, and he was like, and he got very frustrated.
Yes, and I could see that I could have said more on that one, definitely. It's the thing of what I told them in that one was this campaign. Which this campaign kind of ended up being a little bit of that, where like it is technically more of a war campaign. There's the enemy at the doors kind of thing. I did say you guys were the scouts for the military to be introduced to it, and that's where you did start, you know. It just like everything evolved from there. Now it's just displaying it correctly.
Evolution of genre is fine, but it's more just when you're initially making a character.
Yeah, got to be better at that one. Were there any kind of difficulties, problems, I'm gonna say, other than the goddamn wargs, that you felt were like a little too crazy or anything, like trying to figure that out there? Because like I tried my best.
Hidden door.
When was that at? Where was that at?
Trying to remember this one as well.
In the little town that was abandoned.
Oh.
And it took us like 3/4 of the session to try to find the hidden door.
Yeah,
So-
because the DC was super high and
So-
none of us could make it.
So
It's funny.
I'm gonna say this: you weren't supposed to find that. Not at that point in time. You found it early. You shifted the way things were supposed to work into a different direction that was still within the confines, but you did shift it. The fact is, there were supposed to be a lot more scenes and stuff going on in that town. You literally skipped over.
That's what players do.
I know, that's why you were able to do it, but that's why it was actually supposed to be very high DC.
That's fair.
It was supposed to be that for a reason. That wasn't a you know, I did a DC wrong. That was a, you're technically not supposed to find this right now. It's like as you're going in the city, you learn something strange going on, and it gives you a hint that would drop the DC going on and over stuff there. And it was supposed to be there's weird stuff going on.
That's interesting because I felt like I had no idea where else to go at that point. As far as that was the only hint we'd got was this.
The big hint was
this palace.
This guy was supposed to be kind of like hang around him, see if any hunters kind of showed up. I think the idea might have been then maybe you go out doing some scouting on your own if hunters aren't showing up, that kind of thing to begin with. And then there was supposed to be you would see some strange things in town or notice some strange things in town. That was the original way I was going to do it.
The problem was it was just so suspicious right off the bat that this guy and his family were the only ones still in town.
That's why I
feel like there's something going wrong here. I don't want to hang out with this dude.
Well,
he's gonna murder us.
You did the opposite of what I thought you would do, because with him being so suspicious, I thought of rather than let's get out of here, he's gonna murder us, of oh no, we should focus and investigate him. Because that was kind of your job. That's what I thought you'd do. You know.
And that's the thing. I was down for that. But we were given the hint about like, oh, the mayor is like knew something or other. So like we're like, okay, well, we can look into other things, but let's check here first. And then we found this obvious secret door.
I mean, you know, I thought you didn't find the obvious secret door. I thought you just found like
we figured that we could feel like the air blowing and everything else.
Okay,
like, but we're not going to give up on this then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So-
I remember. You made a very good check that wasn't finding the secret door, but it was a very good check related to looking around that area, so you got information that there was something weird there, and that led you down to the focusing on the secret door. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was because we found the hatch that led downwards that was blocked off.
Mhm.
Because that, like, the cellar was blocked off, if I recall, and then, like, when you're down there, it's definitely like, yeah, I think sometimes you put a little bit too much bait on the hook when you're.
I think I agree on that one. I think that was a little too much bait on the hook for that. I think it was that you found that area there, you were investigating it, and like you made some kind of check that was like one of you like rolled like a natural 20 or something on the check. So I'm like, well, I feel like you would find something there, and that hinted at something more, which led you down the path of there's a secret door, let's find out how to do it or something like that. It was like it went from A to B to C to D kind of thing like that. You know,
kind of
the proper roles.
Yeah, in fact, this literally happened a second time at the very end. Came full circle, where you made that door a little bit too hard as well.
Yes, I will agree. That door was a little too much there too. As we had talked about afterwards, I could have expressed things better for that door. Definitely, I could have said things to you like, you know, it seems like it's sealed away in such a way. You get the feeling that it's not going to be anything. But I think it's also the thing of I really didn't give you hint about what was going on at all the proper way. I think that was the entire thing. Is we were talking about it afterwards.
I also had a thought afterwards too that we had to knock down part of a wall to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Would my detection even gone through the stone in that wall?
Detect magic just senses in a radius. It's not really blocked by anything.
Yeah, it is. Or
Not the second
not in
edition.
Pathfinder.
Not in 2E. Oh,
Yeah, that was the problem. Not in 2E. If it was like 1E, it would have been blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah. I looked at that. I actually did. I'm like, oh, well, I guess you detect that there. Because it's technically there. You know, it's one of those things it was also that
that's a weird change.
I didn't necessarily...
It's a simplified change. It's so the GM doesn't have to think about what kind of material is this? Is it lead? How much thick is it? You know, like it's more it just kind of works now.
Yeah. It definitely was one of those things I wasn't expressing a lot of stuff like what was going on. Like the thing is, like, I think I talked to Wyrm about this, that like the kind of vibrations you felt was technically marching army or like kind of stomping army. It wasn't anything doing with magic or your earth or anything like that. That's what it was. It was the enemy army approaching, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't express that very well.
I had a feeling that might be what it was originally.
And I did as well, but then we're like, okay, we hear thumping. It could be the army. It could also be something below us. Let's check. And then we rolled a good perception check. And then you gave us the hint. And then it just kept going.
It was definitely like a bit of me messing up on expressing things to you guys. I think definitely there that didn't help. And I think that happens. And, you know, it's... I think what would have been better in that situation, I definitely think, it was taking a step back and being like, you know, just out of the game talking to you guys, you know. I think when it came down to that original door, that one, you guys just get frustrated with it because it was being hard to get through there. But, like, it was one of those things that one, technically you could go there first. I wasn't going to, that was not something that I would necessarily stop you for or anything like that. It just... I understand the frustrations because you found.
Also, remember Eskret tearing up every single floorboard.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason we were frustrated at that point is because we were rolling like 12s and 13s and still failing the entire campaign because you were setting DCs terribly.
That was still very high DCs. Yes. Even with the DC I specifically set high, all of my DCs were higher than they should have been.
Yeah, and that's why we got frustrated about, like, and that's why we just kind of assumed you were still setting them too high, even though those ones might have been even higher because they were, so. Yes,
there was a reason for that one to be high, but it still could have been higher than I wanted it to be because everything was high.
Yeah, so that made it worse, but.
Yeah, on top of everything. Let's see here.
To be fair, we also knew there was something below because I just squeezed into a mouse hole and found my way through.
Oh, yeah. Are there any places or areas that you think you would have wanted to explore, or areas that you would have wanted to go to?
I would have liked to explore the political landscape of Avanswell more, I'm gonna be honest. I get why that ended early, but I would have liked to.
I do think the party was fun. I think I did an okay job on it. I didn't do a great job on it, I think. I think it was okay, but I think the concept of the party was fun.
Yeah, I think it was fine. Again, my big whole thing, and I've said this a bajillion times to you independently, is I wish I made a social character. I wish I could have rolled social more.
That's fair.
It was this weird thing of very often I didn't allow the social rolls when I should have. It's sort of like, it's that entire thing is, get the social roll first, get the role playing second. I allowed the role playing first, and then oftentimes I would forget about the role because we went into the role playing.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have explored, been able to go back and explore more of the weird shadowy realm thing.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
And where some of the other places led to.
Oh, that would have been an interesting one, definitely.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. I can see why that's kind of impractical, but man, that would have been
Oh yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting, but it would have derailed the campaign.
It would have switched things dramatically on that end. It was one of those things is, I'm not going to lie, when you went in there, I was thinking about where to send you to, and with a couple of your checks and stuff, I had like 2 or 3 things I was planning on or kind of thinking about. I went for the Swamp Larns at that end in time. I was like, okay, you've made some checks this way. We'll do the Swamp Larns one. Also, like, it was the one I was kind of leaning towards for you ending up in anyway. But with your checks, it made it very easy to be like, those checks kind of fit with my thought.
If I recall correctly, you didn't expect us to go through into the shadow anyway. You expected us to try a different way out.
Because of like how I talked to you about it, I didn't outright discount it, so I had an idea what was there, but I also thought, like, I gotta be honest, like, digging out probably would have been an easier path. Like, you could probably just take the time and dig out. It will lose some time, but you know.
Yeah.
Well, the problem was the poison gas.
Yeah.
I get that. It was just weakening us, though. I don't think it was gonna kill us.
It would have taken quite a while to get to that deadly level. And
right, but because it was weakening us, it would have slowed us down for digging too.
Yeah,
we were.
It was a different kind.
We were worried about that. Yeah.
It was a thing that was something to worry about. It was a kind of time constraint, but it was also like there probably could have been some interesting things you could have done about it, you know. But like, honestly speaking, it's kind of one of those things is try to figure out a way to overcome it or escape to safety. When there's an obvious possible way to escape to safety, I understand why you took that one. You know, it did make sense.
That's why I took Cleanse Air later on. After I got to sleep next, I'm like, I'm going to take Cleanse Air and have that in my back pocket.
It was one of those things is because the route you took, there were certain characters and things that I've been planning on that kind of went, they were there, but not there. Ixbanor's rival, kind of, his mentor's killer. You were supposed to beat him a bunch more times. You kind of went to places that avoided him.
That kind of got dropped pretty fast. Funny, you want to know what I thought when that dark blob appeared? I thought it was going to be my rival.
Yeah, it was.
Because it was in between sessions, I'm like, I think it's going to be him showing up to like.
As
do something
soon as Joe made certain checks, but failed that one check with the shadow portal kind of set of things, and basically got the attention of the Dreadlord, it switched things definitely from mid-boss to actual boss that you're communicating with. Like, Joe, in that moment, switched things.
Yep.
Because I'm like, okay, you've done this. Sure.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about in the sun.
In the sun, yeah.
When a black blob appeared, I thought it was going to be the rival.
I thought about reusing him here and there, but there never was like a moment that I felt like I had a good idea of how to bring him in with how the story was going. I think that was kind of the thing.
That's fair. I mean, just appearing there, I think would have been fine. But
Yeah.
I'm not saying what you did was bad. In fact, funny enough, based on what you had in mind, we wouldn't have fought him anyway. But it still would have been interesting to have him show up again.
It was one of those things. I'm not saying it would have been impossible for you to actually get to a fight with him, but there never was like a true. There was plans for more encounters with him, but to get to that point in time where you would have been like fighting him, I don't think that was really in my mindset a lot of times, because it was supposed to be like there were going to be difficulties and bosses, but it's that entire idea of, you know, they're never alone. It's probably not a good idea to go after them when there's like 7 other guys that are pretty powerful next to him, kind of thing like that, you know.
Yep.
Although
you did say that the Dread Army probably got teleported somewhere as well. That means, and Ixbanor is also somewhere else. That means that confrontation can still happen.
I actually do have a storyline of what was going on in what goes on with the Dread Army when it arrives. I have part of that storyline written out. Not all of it, but part of that storyline
They
written
turned
out.
into hippies.
I mean, for RPGs, you never want to have it all written out. That's generally
Yeah.
being a bad
I
DM.
wrote that out as part of the adventure I've been writing. So it's kind of like because again, I wasn't done the entire adventure as I was going through it. I was going through like parts and portions of it. I pretty much got to like, I would say if we're talking about adventure paths for like Pathfinder, I was in the middle of like book 2 in where I knew about was going. And book 2 is where you begin to see what happens with the Dread Army. You begin to see hints of where they ended up and stuff like that. Because the idea is then, you know, over the course of it, your characters in the original storyline for Madness learn the ways to travel between the different like areas that are separated out in this kind of like subgroup of, like, you call them almost like spheres or mini dimensions or kind of like that, you know, that they're kind of clustered together. And like you're now in one over here as your characters have ended up in. And
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it could happen again. And my joke was more just that, you know, you gotta make room for players to be stupid.
I try my best.
Yeah.
Sometimes he lets us be too stupid, though.
I mean, that's generally more the thing of like, sometimes, I actually do get what you mean by that. There is a point where sometimes it's like our characters would have known better, but we just as players didn't have the context, and you don't correct that.
I'm
definitely
thinking of the one game where I was the skeleton dude.
Oh boy.
Where the two kept going off and doing drugs.
You lost me. That sounds familiar, but I don't remember which game that is. 2 people kept going off and doing drugs, and you were the skeleton dude? Oh, you weren't the skeleton dude. You were the slime dude. You were hanging out with the skeleton dude. That was Children of Wrath.
Oh, that's right. I was the slime dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you were
Children of Wrath.
You were technically like an ooze race that was also like a druid or something, or, you know. Or I can't remember what class you were.
No, I wasn't a druid.
No, but you had shape-changing powers.
That's Joe's game where we have an
Yeah, I was a shape changer.
Yeah.
I morphed over my skeleton friend. That's
yeah.
right.
You gave him skin because he was a guy
But
person.
that game, we kind of at least 2 of our people kind of went way out there.
That was definitely one that I can say I did not keep the characters in check or allow. There's okay, I'm not gonna lie, that game had a lot go wrong with it. I liked the game. We ended up in a weird spot. That was kind of interesting, but there was a lot of.
It was fun, but we went off on some random side quests.
I think that was the good thing about this one is technically nothing was a real like random side quest. Granted, like there were points that I had plans to possibly add side stories. It's just that you never got to them.
Well, also, we derailed you a few times to where you basically had to make up content on the side anyway. So
Yes, you did manage some derailments a couple of times. Yep,
like when we broke out of prison, or went through a shadow portal.
It was one of those interesting things. Is like the shadow portal worked, but it was also like you did lose such like a weird amount of time and stuff with the shadow portal that things like accelerated at the Birchlings very much so, you know. And that was one of those things is like various actions you kept doing were like, changing the time period. It's like there's certain things that were kind of going to happen, but I didn't have an exact time when they were going to happen. Basically, with what you decided, I kind of maneuvered the time around that kind of thing like that to seem appropriate,
Yep.
Avanswell went so differently than I thought it would be. Not gonna lie.
Me too. The problem was, and I really do get this, like, that's the thing. Part of me was annoyed because, like, I did build my character to be somewhat social. Funny enough, I was planning to put even more points into social stuff, but when you just never had me roll, I started to question it. Like, even back in Birchlings, I was like, do I want to? Maybe not. Like,
she should say, like, hey, can I have some more, like checks at the beginning, or like when I meet people or something, like, hey, or like, just let me know, like.
I did.
I think my brain just shut that out. My brain just shut that out. I don't remember enough saying it. Yeah. I'm sure you did to me. But it's like, gone to the brain.
Yeah, I think I started off being a little bit more jokey, like, I mean, that would have been a nice place for a social role or something like that, but eventually I started being more direct. But
it was definitely one of those things, though, that Avanswell, I was expecting a little bit more political machinations. I was expecting a little bit more stuff.
I was gonna say, it does make sense though, because I was the only social character in a group of 3, which is hard.
Yeah.
To like, so like, I would have liked, within what we had, I still would have liked more, but I can understand why that part got so derailed.
I think it's also the thing, I'm thinking about it now. I think it was that I wasn't going to punish a lot of other players that don't have social roles by forcing a lot of roles, so I kind of got used to not asking for a lot.
Well, that was the thing too, was Eskret was more social too.
Yeah.
So was Talas. Talas had a few social stats, so did Eskret.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we lost the other social people, and
yep. And I mean, when Calder came in, the whole we focused more on, we kind of forgot about the social, and we're like, oh yeah, we need someone who can do damage.
Yeah. Like, I had a charisma +1. I was not a social character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Man, it's definitely interesting to see, like, how I kind of thought things would run out and certain things. Like, I'm not gonna lie, up until Avanswell, though there was some, like, side things going to the Swamp Larns and stuff like that, generally speaking, you were still, like, in the direction I thought the story was going to go. Even with the side things, you still kind of linked back with the story to a degree. So that was kind of interesting there. It was just that when we got to Avanswell, a bunch of really weird stuff happened and kind of like went off on a side tangent completely and stuff like that.
All our problems started with Umbrin bringing up infiltrators.
Yeah. I shot my mouth off too soon on that one.
And again, it was one of these things that was a problem with the early part of the game, I think, is that I understand the idea and problem with infiltrators did sort of exist. The problem was it was so mild and not well done. And the thing is, you guys didn't notice that. Because again, like
I was gonna I did. I as a player thought it was restricted to the Birchlings. And Ixbanor had thought it was possible for it to be an Avanswell, but also didn't want to commit to it. So
yeah,
I actually thought, well, they have other labs. Maybe they've been more successful in some of these other ones since these closed down. They could have perfected it.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying you are wrong to think that.
That's me too. That was not bad thinking. That was thinking definitely a character could have. Granted, it was incorrect, but it doesn't. Yeah. Your character still could have easily thought that, which made sense.
Yeah.
it just was interesting because that did shape a lot of actions after that, and it made sense to do that, but it was like one of those things that was an interesting, because that was a little extra paranoia, I think is what it was, which I wasn't necessarily thinking people would latch onto, you know, but it does make sense when it happened.
Yep. No, and that's the thing. I totally get it. I thought it was kind of fun. I thought it put things in a weird direction. Like
you still have a bag of face masks.
We
Or
do.
faces.
And I'm kind of surprised Calder never tried to use those daggers.
I was very tempted. The issue is that there was no one to really use them on.
That's a good point. It was a Bane against human, wasn't it? Was one of them?
It was mostly humans that they would work on because it was for like stealing their souls and their faces and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We've
so
fought
that'd be like
mostly
humanoid
monsters. Don't get me wrong. If there was a guy, I'm stealing his soul. I'm stabbing him with those as quick as possible.
This is definitely going to be something if we come back to these characters.
I'm not gonna lie. This was
and he's gone mad.
These were things that were like I didn't get to explore that I had made notes of in the other campaign. Basically, in book, remember I said like in the phase 2 kind of book 2, rumors that the owl is showing up in that town. Hey, you met that guy, and rumors that people are mysteriously dying in a crowded city, that bodies are found. You know, these were two things I had talked about, but I really hadn't explored. Now you gave me like a nice serial killer that I could add in that I was able to design a little bit more. Maybe he's the one that survived there. Maybe it's a different killer. I don't know, but like if I wanted to, I could just use him as the serial killer, this guy that you freed in that part of the storyline.
I think that's really fun in that we inadvertently created you said that like you put him in there because you knew it was like possible, but you weren't like, it depends on what players do with him, and it was like, oh no, now it's definitely gonna be that guy.
It's a lot funnier if it's that guy at this point in time. I'm not going to lie.
I still think it's funny that we still have the bag of faces.
Oh yeah, no, he's gonna want that back.
He can pry it from my cold dead hands.
I know.
It will be a weird thing because if you probably can't detect it with any kind of magic in between the different like realms because they're kind of pseudo dimensional kind of things like that. But as soon as you get close to the castle again, that guy would know. Unless he's taken care of in like an interim story that happened about that, you know. So
my goal still is to find a way to set those souls free and get rid of the faces.
You got some people that know some magic, but again, like you really had to spend time there to know how well they are on their society, as they've been like living in a volcano for how many generations?
Sit down and try to figure it out completely either, because it's like, hey, into the world, kind of more important.
It was
than
obviously
a bag of faces.
Yeah, it was obviously a side point that was not important enough to follow through on. But
it's I mean, I can kind of just quickly like, because this information, like if we ever revisit the characters you know about, the city you ended up in was the Sky City. It has been hiding in the middle of a volcano because like things have been outside the influence of their deity, except in the city. The deity hasn't been helping out if they leave. So they stopped leaving. And has been living inside a volcano for generations at this point in time. For who knows how long.
Wow.
So it's a hot time in the old city tonight?
Also, they're a little, like, weird and definitely not as magically / technologically advanced as they used to be.
Got it. Regression. That happens. That's a very common trope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's probably they would technically probably be at least as advanced as your culture would be, maybe a little bit more than that. But it's the kind of thing of like, probably there is some stuff there in the city. They just probably don't know how to fix it if it ever breaks or anything like that at this point in time. It's,
it's Atlantis. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, they got complacent. It's like, well,
you're right. It's Atlantis from the hit Disney movie, the Atlantis movie.
Yeah, no,
I can't remember what it is.
That's what I was talking about.
I forgot all about that until you mentioned that. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. Is it just Atlantis?
Where it's like, they don't know how to fix the thing. They have like these technology that does stuff, but they can't fix it if it breaks.
Yeah. Well, again, they got complacent. Probably a lot of stuff got broken when they landed in the volcano.
Yeah.
And they never able to, get everything 100% up and running again.
Also, if you make something so good that it outlasts the people who made it, you can actually forget how it works. That's actually a thing.
True. That is very true.
Yeah.
This is actually a problem. Fun fact: this is actually a problem with nuclear power plants because, like, we just kind of stopped making them, and because we've like made a whole bunch of them, and then we just haven't made any more, and now it's like we're trying to figure out how to make them again.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like we had to redesign a lot of stuff. Granted, it's a little better now, but we have some good designs. But it's taken a while to get back to it.
Yeah, well, but most of what we've been doing is updating systems, but building one from scratch is something that became kind of a problem. It's fixed now, like we're doing it now.
Again,
and it's
it took time.
We couldn't.
Yeah.
We just had to refigure it out, which is a whole thing.
I know they're going to be reopening 3 Mile Island.
I heard about that.
But
honestly, it's fine. It's not.
So yeah. Let's see here. Is there any other? How did you feel about all your characters' balance? I think that's a good question about it. Like, I tried my best to get everybody kind of like a little bit of spotlight here and there for different things. Did you feel like I was bad at that, or you feel like it was at least okay? Because that's a challenge a lot of times. I'm not gonna lie. But how well did I do that at very least for characters? Do you think?
I feel like Umbrin got the biggest spotlight, but I also feel like that's because he kept reading forbidden books.
Yeah.
He did keep touching things he shouldn't have.
Well, also, I had the religious character, and we were dealing with God stuff.
Yeah, I feel like you did drive a lot of the plot, just because also, like, apparently, like, the chapel was a thing we needed to go to. Or not needed to, but, like, yeah. I honestly think that stems from the fact that your character had a clear drive in what he was looking to do.
Yeah.
Our characters didn't as much.
Yeah.
My character had a hero complex.
It's more like he just really wanted to like find out about certain things and that kind of things.
That, and also I wanted to save everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, that fell away. Oh,
I'll
let you finish.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna just change a little bit. So.
No, I was gonna say that's kind of was I kind of was like that from the beginning, and it just as we learned more, it just was that what became my sole drive was, hey, we need to save our people.
Yeah. I do feel like though when we got to the Sky City, I did get a shine a lot, which was fun.
Yeah, you did.
Calder making the anti skinwalkers stuff was fun too. The power of alchemy.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I think the issue was that I played a more passive character.
Yeah.
Who was more there for combat purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again is fine.
You kind of were like, I'm along for the ride, and I'll keep you two safe.
Yeah,
you did instigate a prison break, and that was very funny.
Instigate is a strong word. I prefer lead.
I mean, I did suggest. I think I did partially suggest breaking too.
Yeah. Because, what are we gonna do? Stay in prison? Nerds? No.
I feel like though, had it been me and Calder or me and Umbrin, it wouldn't have happened that way.
No, it wouldn't have, but that wouldn't have been as fun.
Well, it was neither of us were really high rank with socials, so it was we're not going to be able to talk our way out of this place.
Yep. No, I know. I get it. Honestly, I found it amusing. Ixbanor is the one who was really annoyed at you guys.
I mean, if Ixbanor was there, they probably would have took the lead and tried to talk our way out.
I'm not gonna lie,
you didn't have a talking person.
There really wasn't a lot you had to do to get out. Was the thing. It was that hint of earlier paranoia with how honestly speaking, you had seen a little bit of the problems with Avanswell. There was a lot of terrible bureaucracy. The noble class was like really not good. You know, it was systemic corruption that was in here still, that hadn't gone away with everything that happened. And it was an unfortunate part about it that, like, I'm not gonna lie, there was kind of like a storyline that the king was actually trying to deal with the corruption of the noble class to get things working out. It was just an uphill battle against them because, you know, the entire gigantic war didn't really give the king a lot of power, that everybody was kind of half panicked and a lot of refugees, and it was a mess kind of in the things. You could have delved into that a little bit too, you know.
If I would have had more confidence in, or more trust in what's his name, our security guard.
Do I have his name? His name might have been lost to me. I can check my notes. They're Wyrm's notes. They're somewhere in here, probably.
Mr. Fancy Pants, but
Jonas?
Not Jonas.
no, not Jonas.
Yeah.
The one that was assigned to us.
Yep.
He was
If I would have had more trust in him, which I should have had a little bit more, because, you know, he did think that I was a misplaced noble and was keeping my secret. But if I would have had a little more trust in him, I might have waited a little longer before trying to break out. That, you know, maybe he'll save our bacon.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. He was an idiot. He probably wasn't like a great person, but he had, just because of his how he was raised, but he was well-intentioned idiot, you know?
Yeah. But just his rank might have been able to at least either help us out, and, you know, help us get out in some way, or at least postpone any fate of death.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't trust he was going to be able to do that.
Look, he was
Captain
helpful.
Meaner.
Captain Meaner. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Meaner.
He tried his best.
It's so funny because when we first met him, I thought he was going to be like super corrupt, but now he just ended up being stupid.
He's not corrupt. He's just an idiot. No, it was the thing of like his boss was horrifically corrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just a stupid minion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to tell. Like, we figured that out. It was just hard to tell if he was complicit or not until a little bit had passed. And we started to realize he was just making excuses to go and do things while we were, like, escorting him around. Oh, I need to go do this thing over here. That's convenient. I'm glad, you know, I'll do an errand while we're there.
Yeah, you guys go ahead. I'm going to go over to this stall here and, you know, get an axe sharpened or something.
He was definitely a little bit of like, I guess I'll do this because it's like, you know, you really shouldn't be doing this, but I guess I'll help you in like going over there or doing this thing, you know, because he was trying to be, in a quotation, a nice guy. It's just like he kind of was also a complete idiot.
Yep.
He's like, I'm still escorting you. It's just I'm not staying by your side every step of the way.
I'm curious. Do humans in your world get a penalty to intelligence?
No, only that guy did.
Okay.
Only that guy.
Well, the entire idea was that he was a guy raised in a very corrupt noble society, but he was like a good-intentioned guy, but he never learned anything different. It was always the society he was in that he kind of knew, you know.
Yep.
That was supposed to be...
Calder was human. He didn't have a negative to his intelligence.
Depends on the situation.
I'm not saying you couldn't act stupid. I'm just saying you didn't have a naturally low intelligence.
No, that's fair,
yeah. Look, you know...
I mean, we all could do stupid things. I mean, me opening my mouth when we got into Avanswell was stupid.
It was the thing of, like, it wasn't necessarily a bad idea to talk about some of those things, but it was kind of like you talked to the first person you met.
Yeah, we should have felt out the situation first before just mouthing it up. And my guy was just seriously worried that was going to be a threat. And
oh yeah, no, it was that paranoia that seeped in, combined with the fact that, like, you had been used to the people in the Birchlings. The Birchlings was a relatively, well, non-corrupt city. I think that was one of those other things about it. It was a relatively nice place to
Yeah,
live and
it was
stuff
militaristic and it was structured and militaristic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While, like, you know, it was one of the probably few places that had actually well adapted for the possible threat of the Dread Army. Because someone that was competent, though noble, was in charge, you know? It was the, you know, Creston Mine and her husband being like the guy who's in charge, and her being in charge of the military was a really good combination, because they were able to be like, hey, we can reorganize the city to be ready for problems because we don't have that corruption there, you know? And it's an interesting thing to see that you heard about, like, you know, there was a lot of systemic corruption. And that's the thing is too, is that's another reason that, like, you didn't really have an opportunity to deal with the people over in Egelwyn Castle, but that's another place that didn't have a lot of corruption, because I gotta be honest, they're another one that's just out there and no one cares about them, you know, while the core of the Ward lands, the area that's been, in quotation, settled, is very corrupt, with a lot of nobles, you know, having mines and farms and all kinds of stuff where they're like, you know, probably not really treating the peasantry very good, you know, kind of things like that, which you kind of saw from what they were talking about there, unfortunately. Yeah. It was definitely one of those situations that you certainly didn't get into, but very well could have. And you just, again, politics, we saw a little bit of it, we left. You pulled we'll just go over here now, for that one at very least. Yeah. Were there any characters, NPCs, that really stood out for you? I'll put to the side, we'll put aside, you know, like Talos and Tak, because they were kind of members of your team NPCs, you know. Tak, I'm sorry. But how about, like, other people that you encountered, or things? Anything that stood out for you as interesting characters you met along the way?
Our one dwarf friend he ended up having an axe for a hand.
Yes.
What was his name?
Who unfortunately passed.
Tolan, if I recall correctly.
Tolan.
Yeah.
Tolan
I actually
didn't
pulled that out of my brain.
Yeah, Tolan, unfortunately, loved Last Stands.
Yeah.
He pulled a lot of, I'm just gonna hold the line and have a last stand. You know, I could joke about some things about, like, you know, like lore and story wise things for, like, you know, Last Stand kind of groups and stuff like that. But this is for whatever reason, I just wrote that guy as a, like, Last Stand, holding the line, doing it right now. Boom. We need someone to hold the line. I volunteer. Last Stand it is.
I really like Duchess Circean. Probably a good close second is Jonas. I did like him as well.
Yeah, Jonas was a good guy.
Jonas is an interesting character. Certainly I liked using him because it was a name that appears in the other adventure. So that's why, like, I was able to actually establish his story more than I ever did in the other adventure. So that's kind of interesting. This definitely was a point in time where it was an excuse to kind of explore some things related to what was going to happen. So sort of like there were some characters I kind of knew their course of actions, but it was like, you know, definitely not everyone.
I really liked Gregor as well.
Yeah. He was an interesting character, definitely, because he's, you know, got some problems. He's kind of broken, but he's like, because he's got, like, unsuccessfully something shoved in him, and he's basically like a flesh puppet, but he still retains part of his consciousness. which he wasn't supposed
Yep.
to, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
I still think his daughter was very creepy.
Well,
Uh-huh.
like his daughter and wife were both dead and puppeted, you know. Yeah, he's the only one that retained a little bit of himself, and even then, he's still like, you know, it was like two conflicting minds, which it shouldn't have been. You know, it's supposed to be like the process, if it was successful, would have killed them both. But the thing is, you don't keep any of that memory or knowledge of the
He was kind of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Yes, that's the best way to describe him. And probably because he was, you know, it might have been something related to the fact that he was, even beforehand, you know, like, had a lot of physical problems. He was deformed and had some issues and kind of stuff like that. And, you know, maybe that made him not be able to be replaced as much, you know, or something like that. But, yeah. There was supposed to be, like, again, there was a sad story to it all, but it was definitely something you couldn't really get from the entire thing, unfortunately, just because of the direction that things went with the exploring of it. Poor Gregor, you know.
Yep. I mean, even with that, it was kind of obvious, at least in general, what happened. I don't think we need to find out exactly. It was, you know, we figured it out.
Yeah.
Like, I get that there's an
eventually.
actual story there, but, you know.
Well, I mean, like, it's the, you know, what I mean is, like, you could have seen more of that story, but the kind of directions you went in kind of, like, took you away from that, and the kind of scenes we had and stuff like that is what I mean.
I did find it funny that, like, everyone was, like, super kind of, like, suspicious of him, but then Ixbanor was just like, oh, no, he's nice, he's a friend, and that was, like, there's that touching moment, you know, at that, like, near the end.
Yeah, where it's like he has that last bastion of, like, hey, get out of here, I'm dying now, this is the end of me.
Yep.
You know, get away. You know, he still had a good heart, you know, even though he, you know, lost everything to a horrific army that just, you know, wanted to murder him. Yeah. I think it's a thing that, like, it is, I think Fall of Avanswell is technically a very dark story overall, because it is, like, the back end of a, you know, extinction level war against your people. But it's kind of the thing of, it was meant to show that, like, as much as, like, yes, your ancestors weren't the good guys of this, it doesn't mean you deserve it now, but it's sort of like that old vengeance, that old anger, that hatred of being, like, you know, basically thrown on, like, a, you know, wasteland continent for, like, 1,000 years, kind of pissed off a bunch of people. They went through a lot of shit. It was not going to be easy to, like, even, like, try to talk with them, which, again, like, I'm not saying that that was not an impossibility to, like, maybe negotiate with some individuals, because I'm not going to lie, there probably could have been a few individuals there that would have questioned things a lot more. It's just that, like, there wasn't really an opportunity to explore that direction, and, like, the ways you went, we weren't really going to go into that kind of thing for a storyline there. But I hope it was a good kind of war story too, you know, without actually having to roll out a lot of war stuff, because that isn't always fun. I'm not going to roll mass combat rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we could have maybe played with something, because there are rules for it now. We talked about battle cry, but I'm like, we don't need to. We can keep it simple here, which I was fine. Is there a particular enemy that all of you really liked? I think that's kind of like, we're back into questions here. Like, was there, like, a particular, like, battle that you had that, like, stood out? I mean, again, I'm going to exclude picking up the wargs and putting them over in the corner, because they just kind of murdered everybody. It was my first mistake. Wargs, you sit there. Bad dogs. I threw, like, 2 more of you than I should have. You sit over there. Murder dogs.
Yeah. Personally, I really like the, it wasn't really an enemy, but I just like the antagonistic dragon near the end. He was just, it was just like, what do you want with us? Stop being such a dick.
Just being a prick, yeah.
Look, you know, he was looking after this place. He's technically not a divine servant, kind of. But he's like, look, you've infiltrated my place and you're messing things up. You know, what are you doing here? This is my home.
I mean, in the end, he's the one who screwed everything up royally.
Look, you know,
Well, I mean, yeah, kind of.
he did.
he blew
break
up.
everything.
He blew up the sun that was going to like keep providing energy to the city.
It was definitely one of those things. Is that I guess he felt more whatever you were facing was more of a threat than the city remaining. And honestly, like, you know, he probably was watching the city until it actually fell down, you know, so it was sort of like, well, I guess like we could just, you know, call it a day and I can go move on somewhere else or something and do something else.
Yep.
He might not have intended for it to break, and just, you know, being a gigantic dragon, you know, you just whoops.
I would say also, yeah, the big battles. The whole thing of going through the battlefield and then doing the actual battle and retreat.
Basically the big
Was a
old
lot
war
of fun.
stuff. There was a lot of
Yeah.
interesting ideas for the war stuff, and I think that ended up being kind of like because it was that three phases. There was getting through the battle lines to get to the town, fending off the first attack, and then figuring out a way to get as many refugees and stuff out of the town as possible. Those were a lot of really interesting kind of concepts, and I feel like you guys all did a very good job of like coming up with cool ideas.
Yeah, honestly, it is really cool when the GM basically says, "Here's a problem, figure it out." That's always a fun thing as players.
Well, again,
Yeah.
that was like, this is what's happening. What do you plan to do against it? You know, I opened it up to you guys. You know, I felt like these were very good points of time to be like, here's the problem, solve it, please. You know, it was a fun point in time to see the creativity there. I definitely liked it. Yeah. Are there any questions you guys have for me? Maybe about like things you didn't explore, places you got, stuff, all that kind of other stuff. Any kind of questions you got for me?
There was one. I'm now trying to remember it. I had it earlier. It was about something. I know there's one that we never figured out, but I'm not sure you're going to tell us this one. The Black Towers. How did they get those things? Like where they were? What was the significance of that?
Okay. So the Black Towers, I can actually answer about it. Those were created by the Dreadlord to be basically an amplification for the kind of ritual that the Dreadlord was doing. The Dreadlord was basically using the fact that there was kind of like a ley line energy that was tended to be over most of the capitals of the 10 kingdoms, and was basically, it wasn't necessarily corrupting the earth, but awakening like some of the more primeval spirits that are remaining in the earth after the Earth God left, basically. And those were what was kind of corrupting things and going against them. And basically, the Dreadlord's army were being protected by, you know, the Dreadlord being empowered by a little chunk of Earth, you know, God power, you know.
Yep.
And it was actually, that's actually the reason that southern continent was a barren wasteland, was the basically little crystallization of the Earth God's power that remained down there that was filled with anger and hatred that just made that place die.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So the Dreadlord tapped into that and basically became like an overlord over everybody there, and then surged everybody forth to, you know, overcome the walls and stuff like that, and break out and start the murder spree. But Dreadlord didn't actually have plans for after everyone was dead, because probably it would have resulted in, like, I'm not going to lie, the the combined goblinoids and ogres and giants and all that kind of stuff that were in the south not being in great shape. Like, infrastructure is completely destroyed. They don't really have supply lines. They don't really have a lot of numbers left. Probably, like, they didn't leave anybody back home. Let me put it that way. So,
I mean, could they have even lived in the new area, or were they also subject to its problems?
they weren't, as long as the Dreadlord did something about it. If the Dreadlord finished their job, they might not have protected them anymore.
Yeah.
Because Dreadlord is filled with the anger of everybody down there, combined with the vengeance of a fallen deity. That's not a good combination for, doing stuff.
Yep. Yeah, okay. So it was kind of a suicide mission that I thought it was.
Yeah. The Dreadlord probably won't tell you it's that, because again, their mind's corrupted. They don't think of it that way. It's
I mean, no one ever plans that far.
Yeah. It's vengeance, vengeance, kill, kill, kill. That's the dark voice in my head that's subsuming my will to a degree. Only to a degree, just enough. The Black Towers had a reason for existing.
Yeah, okay, I thought it was something along those lines, but it's nice to have that confirmed.
Yeah.
I did remember though, the other question that I was thinking about.
Sure.
Who was following us when we were traveling to the Star People?
So,
Yeah.
so the person that was following you was actually an agent of the city, and you lost them.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Good or bad?
Basically-
For, they were trying to arrest us or something.
Yes, it was someone that had been like a bounty hunter that had caught wind of you at the inn.
Okay.
Basically,
I vaguely remember that guy.
yeah,
There was a guy who kind of walked out. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I remember that.
they made some checks, which I rolled really well on. And after that, things were there. It was kind of this thing of like, I think I rolled a natural 20 for him, because he was sort of like he just so happened to have been in a place where you're currently being, because it had been like a few days since you escaped, where he had noticed that, and then so happened to be there to notice you. It was that kind of like, that was like the nat 20 for that guy kind of thing of like, oh, yeah, he knows that you're there, and he was technically going after you, but you did manage to lose him with some checks and stuff like that too. So
yeah.
he's unfortunately probably either really dead or just lost somewhere. Maybe he got back. I don't know. You did spend a lot of time in the city.
The land will kill him soon.
Yeah.
I mean, technically speaking, there is one people that will remain in that plane. There's a bunch of Minotaurs living there now. I don't think they're gonna leave the mountains because that's where they live, or that one forest there. But they're there. They'd be like, well, someone else will evolve eventually. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yep. One other question about that same stretch of time. What was with that burning house?
Burning house.
The temple, you mean?
Oh,
no,
in the
not burning
plains.
temple.
In the
In
plains.
the plains, there was the house.
Yes.
Oh.
So-
yeah.
There was something related to that if you looked into it more. Because the Dread Army wasn't completely unified in a lot of ways. Basically, they were marching for Avanswell, but they spent off small roving bands to try to take care of stragglers and stuff like that. So that was actually had been a little kind of place that had some people living there. They weren't like farmers, they were farmers that were more like livestock in the area here. They had more open
Herders.
things. Herders, yes. They got murdered. That was the burning place. It was like a roving band that, if you had done some more stuff there, you might have encountered some warg riding elites, that were like beast riding elites. But
Wait, is that why we saw large elephant creatures shortly after that?
yes,
Are those the herd creatures?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
That's cool. That's connecting two things that I wrote down. Then I was just like, what was the? Because we saw
Yes.
that and it meant nothing to us,
Yes, it really didn't mean anything to you. It was a thing that you could have maybe investigated for a little bit of worlds building and stuff like that, but because it was stuff that was going on. But you kind of touched on a little bit and then kind of moved on. So it was that's fine.
Also, I think if I recall correctly, we waited. We were like, we'll check it out in the morning when it's a light, and then that was too late. So
There were plenty
Alright.
of rolls that happened over the course
I
of
think
the game.
those are the big things I had questions about. So I'll leave it to other people to ask questions.
Well, yeah, Joe, Jesse, either of you have any kind of questions that you have about things? Fill in some blanks.
Not
was-
really. Those are pretty much
Wyrm
everything.
Yeah, Wyrm hit what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, who did burn down the temple?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Because we
No.
never did figure that out.
Yes, you missed that would happen. What had happened was basically it was something very similar to what attacked you in the sun. The Dreadlord sent something in, sensing that there was something going on in that place. It just so happened those creatures weren't very smart and just basically attacked and murdered a bunch of people and set fire to the place.
Oh, so I sent them to the temple because he knew we were there, but they just attacked the temple instead because they didn't know to go underground. Got it.
Technically didn't know it was you that was messing with things, but they were also basically one of the main sources of divine energy left in the world. So it was also the thought of like, I can at least manifest a few of these things, because it wasn't something that was very easy to manifest. So that's why you only had the one, though it was technically a pretty big problem for you guys, kind of. It would have been a tough fight if I had you guys fight it. It was still possible, but like the cinematic dragon, the thing collapsing, that was a lot cooler. Kind of when I went for that, like I kind of been thinking about having you fight it, but I was like, we had a big fight. Let's have cinematic kind of like action scene, stuff like that. That was what I felt like doing. But yes, it basically most of those that could have been manifest were sent there, so it was going to be like this was it for fighting these kind of manifest things at this point in time. You wouldn't have to worry about any more, technically. While you wouldn't have been fighting them, if you hadn't rested, you could have shown up while it was on fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why you showed up after. Because basically, the Oracle lady had gotten a prediction that I'm going to die in like a few days or something. She knew she was going to be fighting something, She didn't know what was going to happen. She knew something like this was going to occur. So she was ready to fight to the death. And she technically took a whole bunch of these things with her. She was one of the reasons that it wasn't worse than it was. And then some people got out of the place. But yeah, she was pretty cool. A whole bunch of warrior priests, technically won. Most of them died, unfortunately. But that's kind of what happened at the temple while you were downstairs. It was one of those things that, like, there were a couple of times where you did things where I'm like, well, that delays your schedule when I was planning for something to happen when you came out. So, again, it's the world still moves, so things moved ahead. And I did that a couple of times, because you changed the timing.
Yep.
Yeah. We're good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Umbrin was good. I feel like it was always Umbrin who was like, we should wait and be ready. We shouldn't take chances.
It wasn't
not a bad thing. No, that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying it was all like, okay, I want to be prepared for when this happens. Like, okay, fine. Like, I would have fought more against it if I thought it was a bad thing. It's just kind of funny that I feel like he was always like, let's stop and be prepared, and then something happens because of it.
Again, I think
be prepared to get into a fight.
There definitely was a lot of things, and I think it's like one of those things is, I think, other than the dungeon where the portal was, there really wasn't like a good dungeon where I had planned for multiple encounters. A lot of it, I think that was the big time, and I kind of planned for multiple encounters when you were doing the kind of like the maze exploration.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you could have done a dungeon for the underside temple and actually done like a dungeon there.
I thought about doing that. I did. But I then kept it simple because I was like, it was supposed to be a mirror and I made it way too big. That's why I didn't do a dungeon, because I'm like, I made this way too big in my brain. I'm just not going to bother with that. That was me with the idea of it being mirrored and doing that. That was the problem. I had already established something in my brain and I didn't want to break my rules. Theoretically, I could have, but again, like, you get something set in your brain about how something works and stuck onto that.
Yeah. When it comes to dungeons, I actually thought about this. I feel like there were definitely two places you could have added it. That one, obviously. And the other one, I feel like you could have added it. You could have made a dungeon for climbing the tower in the Sky City. You could have made that a little bit more of a dungeon rather than more of a puzzle.
I think also traveling to the Sky City, I could have had it like a much more two-part dungeon where like the first temple was a little larger and the kind of climb up the mountain to the other place, was a little bit more of a dungeon too.
That one as well. Yeah, that could have been also, yeah.
So that could have been more. It's sort of like, yes, you get this like big mini boss on the outside with the T-Rexes, but then it could have been like a small dungeon in the center of it. I did think about doing that, but I'd already, it was sort of like afterwards I thought about that. That's the kind of thing. It's like, oh, I could have done a little more.
That's really funny because I literally sent you a whole bunch of dungeon, like a whole Suspect dungeon thing. I'm like, you might need this. And you completely forgot about it.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing is, the map I used for the T-Rexes is just the map I used then afterwards, because I'm like, I guess I'll just use this as a map, because it works very well for, like, what rooms I wanted. Again, it was that thing of, like, I had a map, so I just added a few rooms in my brain. I already had a few rooms that were going to be in there. I just added a few more, and it was like, oh, this works pretty well for what I wanted it to do. That kind of thing.
Yep.
Sometimes, that's what maps do. You have an idea of a couple of rooms, and you get a map, and you're like, cool, these are those rooms. We can improvise the rest, or like come up with ideas for it. Now that I got a map, yeah. And that will not be the first nor last time I will do that. You'll just cool.
I mean, yeah, that is one of the ways to use maps is as inspiration for some stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm gonna tell you, like, there was a couple of fights that, like, I was very unexpected for. The 2 Elemental Infernos, and I'm not gonna lie, the 2 Clockwork things that you fought, because you fought them in a place I wasn't planning you to fight those, and then you just got into a fight with the Infernos right away, and I'm like, well, we're fighting those too. Granted, again,
yeah,
like,
that was definitely a bad. That one was a bad decision, but
I mean, you managed to overcome them all. That's what really counts.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm not gonna lie, I'm just really happy that, like, I was able to find a horrific, like, ground aberration to use in the last battle there. It's like, oh, cool. It's like, we were talking about, I'm like, I wasn't really planning for a fight, and then, like, while we were, like, getting stuff together and doing some introductions and stuff, I'm, like, looking through the monster list in Archives of Nethys, and I, like, come across something of, like, the CR, and I'm like, oh. I was just checking the CRs, that's the thing. It's like, because it's a creature 13. I was like checking 12 and 13 because that's kind of like the level I was gonna have fight you, and I'm like, oh, Earth monstrosity. Well, we're sold.
Fair.
So the world provided. All right. Well, unless there's anything else, I think that's a good place to leave it there. We kind of discussed everything a lot. I think that was a good, the fun little, like, catch up on the end of the game.
Yeah.
So, all right. Once again, thank you, 3. So you're all planning on being back for the new adventure coming up. I will let you people know.
I still need to look into stuff. I've been
I'm not gonna lie.
Swamped.
I'm not gonna lie. My weekend was so busy. I haven't had a lot of time to work on. I've done a little bit here and there, but I haven't really dove deep into it. This was a bad weekend, for me, for a lot of stuff. I'm not blaming you, Joe. You were just the first part of it, going to your celebration. There was a whole bunch of stuff that happened on Sunday and Monday. It was like, that was like, oh, I already had a busy day. How about a couple more busy days? Wonderful. Thanks, universe.
And work has been so crazy for me. And I normally do weird stuff at work because I tend to have free time. But I haven't.
No. You know what? I think I will say we'll take 2 weeks off now. I was saying 2 or 3 weeks, but since we had this and I kind of lost this weekend, let's just have 2 weeks before we kind of dive into it, hopefully. Fingers crossed everything goes according to plan. Fingers crossed.
Okay.
Give a little bit more time for some people, possibly 4th or 5th, to reply. I've sent up some messages out to other ones. I'm thinking I will probably put a general kind of poke in my players pool on my Discord. Maybe we'll see if someone wants to respond on that one too. For some people that might be, I'm not thinking of messaging, So, okay. Anyway, so that'll be some Shadowrun 5th edition. I hope everybody enjoys that. I'll turn it to everybody, I guess. Hey, regular shout-outs at the end for, Wyrm, Jessie, and Joe. I guess it's normally Wyrm, most than anything.
I'm Diamond Wyrm. You can find me on twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm or at Diamond Wyrm on Twitter and Blue Sky, and Diamond Wyrm on YouTube.
Cool. Hey, everybody. I hope you really enjoyed. I really do. I hope you enjoyed Fall of Avanswell. You check out more of it. You go back and watch the whole thing from the beginning. I think there's some really good ups and downs. This is probably one of my, honestly, favorite adventures I've had out of all of them. Not that there haven't been good adventure parts of it. I think overall, like, the overall composition, overall points of the story, I think for overall the entire time, my favorite so far. I've had some great moments with some of the other ones, some really fun moments, but like this has just been a consistent, really fun, really good group of people. Thank you to Momo, thank you to Tiv for joining us for when they could, and thank you to 3 of you guys for joining along. All right. Anyway, hope to see everybody here around 8 o'clock in about 2 weeks, so hope you can join us then. I'll put out an announcement probably either next week or the week after that about the full schedule of things. So anyway, all right, everybody. Bye for now.